And maintain the NDC.
And retain the NDC.
Yes. I said to solve this problem, it's a very simple problem.
Yes.
Play the tape of the General Secretary of the NDC, who's the chief scribe of the party.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
I heard it.
Masha, go to the Facebook page of Energy Tamako. Why would you go to the...
I'm talking about the General Secretary of the party.
This is the head of the legal director.
And the head of the legal director reports to the General Secretary. He reports to the General Secretary.
But his point is...
All right, I was seeing movie be aqua ba na yam from Bramega TV and platform way eso. I was here and yensem kitwa Kwesi Pratt Jr. Abekan Simbi Ediafa suspended Chief Justice Mami Torkonoo ni press conference ya obeye yi ehunsanso na NPP MP binso edin Simbi atudwa wacha sim Ura Collins Adomako na wutie nsem na ami say the Chief Justice na kra no senka ebeya enka in her own will no in her own will no I was saying I will resign. I was saying why the wager could be not because I couldn't dare to see what is so much was insane before for Abbott Nassau. Edding so Becacho was in Pananco na some brebio. Yintin Sema a course or a coba a betwaso. I will make to TV Ghana.
You will keep reminding the Ghanaian people that whilst they were praying yesterday, whilst it was a national day of prayer, these were also happening. So they should get ready.
I won't do anything that will confuse them.
They should get ready to pay more.
As for things that bring confusion,
you will avoid it.
Stay far away from me. I don't want to be confused.
Anyway, we will not be confused. That I can assure
you. Okay,
wow,
thank you. I just wanted to remind it.
Yes, you have made my day.
Thank you, Uncle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we are very alert. We are as alert as soldiers.
Okay,
so that's fine. We'll not be confused. But you were the one who was saying earlier that whilst we're engaging in prayers and so on, we have a country to build. We must do the right things and put the country back on track, and so on and so forth. So if government is trying to rake in some more revenue to deliver public goods and to respond to political economy and so on and so forth, you shouldn't have a problem with that. How else do you expect the government to rake in revenue? Anyway, so we'll get there. But speaking about the economy, Uncle C whilst he was talking about why the city is doing well, it mentioned gold board as one of the singular policy intervention that the government has introduced, which has improve the economy. So if you look at today's papers,
that thing has its downside too, so don't let me sound...
Yeah, I know.
It has its downside. I think it is something that we have to interrogate seriously. Anyway, maybe when
we'll get there. But this is what I want us to look at. And today's Inquisitor says gold board exports hits $5 billion in H1, which is first half, first 6 months of the year. 2025 beating 2024 total. Because in 2024 it was $4 billion, right? $4 billion US dollars, and now in first 6 months we're doing $5 billion US dollars. Now, the Ghana Gold Board has crossed the $5 billion mark in gold export value for the first half of 2025, surpassing the $4.6 billion recorded for the entire year of 2024. Chief Executive Officer Sabit Jemfi made the announcement at a press conference in Accra, describing the milestone as a clear indication of the impact of ongoing regulatory reforms and efforts to formalize the gold trade. He added that the board is on track to hit the 60-ton export mark by the end of July 2025, driven by stronger compliance, improved oversight, and the streamlined licensing regime under the Ghana Gold Board Act 2025, Act 1140. Now, in the whole of 2024, gold exports stood at 66 tons with an export value of $4.6 billion US dollars. We have done only 6 months, and yet we have crossed the $4.6 billion US dollars mark. We have gone beyond $5 billion, and in terms of volumes, we have done 50 tons in over, and we are optimistic that by the end of next month we would have hit 60 tons. Samit Jemfi emphasized that Gold Board remains committed to playing a strategic role in boosting foreign exchange inflows and supporting macroeconomic stability. This month alone, we have brought in nothing less than $900 million US dollars in forex for the Bank of Ghana. And so, if the Bank of Ghana has enough forex liquidity for the market and for government obligations, and the cedi is strong and stable, it is because of some of these things the Gold Board is doing. Meanwhile, effective today, July 1, anybody who trades in gold without obtaining a license from the Gold Board does so illegally, as all the previous licenses issued by the defunct Precious Minerals Marketing Company and the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources for gold trading have been rendered redundant by the Gold Board Act. So it appears that Gold Board is doing some great things, and this is beginning to be felt in the economy and so on. Collins, I'll start with you.
Yes.
What do you think? 5 billion is quite huge.
Use,
quite significant.
Yesterday, something happened on the floor during the debate of
Okay.
the 360.
Okay.
There seemed to be some issue with the exchange rate.
Okay.
I think when you go onto the Gold Board website, they were quoting above the Bank of Ghana rate.
Okay.
They were doing about 12 point something per cedi.
Right.
Bank of Ghana is still hovering around 10.2, 10.3.
Yeah.
And then some black market people are
even 13.
Are even 13.
Yes.
I think these are things that we should try as much as possible to
tidy up.
Tidy up. Otherwise, the gains that you expect may not reflect on the ordinary Ghanaian.
But what do you think is accounting for these?
I just don't know what
discrepancies.
I don't know. Maybe speculation. I don't know what.
I mean, from 10.20 to 12 something on the black market.
On the black market. Now, even some of them are doing 13.
Yeah.
Some of them are doing.
But this is normal.
Yes.
No, but
it's always been the case that the Bank of Ghana rate is lower.
That is true. But we're talking about the gap,
rate.
the size of the gap.
It's
almost 3. That's almost 3.
Angosi, it's normal.
No, Angosi.
Check all the rates before.
I get the point you are making, Angosi. What is intriguing is that just a month ago, black market was also doing about 10.5.
Okay.
Yes, that's what is intriguing. Normally, the Bank of Ghana rate is always lower.
Yes.
The interbank rate is lower than what's happening. But significantly, we were seeing some parity. You go to the black market and it's also 10 point, maybe just 10.2, 10.3, and then Bank of Ghana was 10. So the jump to 13 is what is drawing people's attention.
The black market hasn't reached 13 yet.
Well, I'm saying some
of them are doing 13. But let's say 12.
Yes.
Let's say 12.
And then the Gold Board website also quoted 12, which was above the Bank of Ghana. So we're wondering whether Gold Board and Bank of Ghana, whether they are, because we know the collaboration between the two. But truth be told, any policy that will help our currency to be stabilized is something that we should all be happy about. I don't think anybody should have any qualms with government doing well per the figures you are giving. If last year the total of 4 billion and within 6 months they've been able to do 5 billion, what it means that the liquidity in the system is high, and that also helps you to stabilize your cedi. For all of us, we've all been praying for the stability of the currency. How long can that be sustained? What happens if the prices on the world market, the gold price on the world market, begin to dip? What measures have government put in place to offset that kind of shake-up? These are the things that we should be asking government. But I should be the last person to be angry about a positive news about an increment in our gold trade. You know, and it's significant because the law now, I think they are tightening up the whole operations, the gold operations, because hitherto, if you recall, whilst Bank of Ghana's record on our export.
QuickBooks gives me the superpower to automate my invoices, track expenses, and get paid fast, so I can get back to what I love. Get more done in less time with QuickBooks Online.
Was let's say 2 billion. Where we export, we got about 3 billion from Ghana. Clearly, there was an issue of people smuggling the gold bars somewhere else. So if the system now is trying as much as possible to close the gap to ensure that we have this kind of stability, why not? We should all be happy about it. The last time His Excellency spoke, he also spoke about the reserves that he inherited and how much he has added to it, which is also contributing to the stability that we have. That is something that we should all applaud, and I don't have any qualms at all. I'm just hoping that now I'm told that they've licensed about 200 and how many people? The report says 205.
240.
40 people have been licensed as gold buyers.
Yes.
What is the significance of that to Galamsey? Where are they? Yes. I'm just trying to draw the linkage. How do we sanitize the mining, as against the buying? Where are they getting the gold to buy? Is it are they getting it from
licensed
miners
or unlicensed
miners? These are all discussions.
It's a very legitimate question. And Sami Jemfi himself was asked at a forum, and they said one of the difficulties they have, right, is to determine the source of the gold.
Yes.
Whether it's from an illegal source or a legal source.
That would be a challenge. It will be a challenge. So whether that is also fueling, I'm saying it's another issue. And I'm saying that we should have a way of ensuring that while the trade part is doing well, where we get the gold from in the first place should be responsible enough. We should have, try as much as possible to have responsible mining. And day in, day out, we read news items of mining, illegal mining still ongoing. I just pray that the government will, as quickly as possible.
And I think your question is that those who are illegally mining, who are they selling to?
Yes. Who are they selling to? Are they selling to licensed buyers?
Because per what the Gold Board Act is supposed to do, it's supposed to automatically take out the activities of this illegal, because we're buying gold. But we're buying gold from supposedly legally mined source. Now, if I'm engaged in an illegal business, and Gold Board is not buying from me,
yes, but you and I know that the significant amount of gold in the system now is also from illegal mining.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, there's more gold being mined illegally.
I'm saying there's a significant amount of gold in the system that is coming from illegal mining. That is the truth. That's a fact.
Yeah, Samuel. How is it?
Sometimes we make economics, sound
like rocket science, eh?
Like rocket science. It is not. The application of common sense and a study of trends and so on establishes economic principles.
Right.
You don't have to go to university to be professor before and so on. Just apply your common sense. You see, one, gold is a non-renewable mineral.
True.
Agreed.
A fact.
And you don't have to be a professor to know this.
True.
It's a non-renewable resource.
Yes.
Okay. Which therefore means that reliance on gold, especially absolute reliance on gold, is not a sustainable thing. The mere fact that it is not renewable.
It's depleted.
Because it will get to a point when it will finish.
It's not infinite.
It's not infinite. It's not renewable.
It's finite, yes.
You understand? So it is not sustainable. Now what are we doing now? We are buying gold in quantities which are unprecedented. And that is a credit to the Gold Board. You understand? And using that to buy dollars in order to shore up the city.
Right.
It is working for now. It will not work for all time. Because gold is a non-renewable mineral. Okay, that's number one. Number two, if you check the statistics, what we are getting today with all the things that Sami Jemfi has said and so on, is far in excess of what the big mining regular companies are producing.
True.
Far in excess. Far in excess of what the licensed mining companies are producing. So the legitimate question then is, where is the gold coming from? Could it be coming from galamsey operations? Could it be gold smuggled from neighboring countries and so on? It's a legitimate question. And we need to answer that question. Now, however, having answered that question, another question pops up. Let us imagine that 10% of the gold we are buying, 20% of the gold we are buying is coming from illegal mining. Now, if you don't buy it, what happens to that gold?
Smuggle it.
And what is the effect of that on the national economy? So we need to have a holistic approach, to all of these issues and so on. Now, something significant has happened, and I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and sometimes I wonder whether they really understand the currency business in West Africa. I think they don't. You see, the cedi appreciated in value to the point where it was exchanging at 10 to $1. Within a couple of weeks, it has appreciated to 12.3. In spite of the fact that we are still buying gold, and we are using the gold to buy dollars to shore up the strength of the cedi.
You mean it's depreciated?
Yes.
It's depreciated to 12.
So what is happening? Now, the intelligence people will tell you that the money trade is a West African thing. It is not Ghanaian. It's a West African thing. So money changers in Togo, Benin, Nigeria, La Côte d'Ivoire, and so on, they study the West African market. When they realize that dollars are available in Ghana cheaply, they rush to Ghana to buy and take it out. You understand? So you can sit in Ghana, take all the right measures and so on. If you don't control the money trade in Togo, in Benin and Nigeria, it's like pouring water into a basket.
That's true.
So we need to understand the transnational nature of the money trade. If you don't understand the transnational nature of the money trade, you'll be beaten about the bush. And that is why I thought that organizations like ECOWAS and so on must play an important role in the collective development of the economies of West African states. These measures ought to go finally to ECOWAS. ECOWAS has to adopt a common position on currency trading. Because we alone as Ghana cannot fight this battle and win. Because it's a transnational trade. You understand? But I haven't heard anybody speak about this transnational dimension of the value of our currency and so on. Then there's another point. What are we looking for? Are we just looking for a strong cedi, or we are looking for something else? Because you see, the strength of the cedi has multiple effects on multiple sectors. So when the cedi appreciates in value, exporters suffer.
That's true.
That's a fact, basic economic fact. When the cedi appreciates in value, especially within a very short time, and the value of appreciation is so high, exporters suffer shocks. So then, in relation to tinkering with the value of the cedi, we ought to be thinking about what kind of economy do we want to build? Do we want to build an export-led economy? Or we want to build an import-consuming economy? Or do we want to create a balance between the two? That goes hand in hand, as they say in France, in French, para passer, with the tinkering with the cedi.
Pari passu.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. My friend teaches me this.
No, that's why we're here. Yeah. That's why we're here.
Thank you.
Pari passu.
Pari passer.
Yes.
Eh?
Pari passu.
Pari
passu. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
You know.
Hand in hand.
But that's the point I'm making.
Okay.
So we've got to be thinking multi-dimensionally. Otherwise, we'll be beating about the bush.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
Now, look at the world. Look at the whole world. Japan. Take Japan. Japan doesn't have a strong currency, does it?
No, it doesn't.
And you think that the Japanese could not take measures to strengthen their currency?
They can if they want to.
But Japan depends largely on exports. Look at Ghana. I haven't counted, but just from looking, watching our streets and so on, it would seem to me that about 70 to 80% of the vehicles on our roads are Japanese made.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, if you strengthen the Japanese currency,
It becomes more expensive to buy them.
those vehicles become more expensive. The European market, the American market, and so on become the beneficiary
True.
of a strong Japanese currency.
Yes.
You understand? China. What is the strength of China's currency? China doesn't have a strong currency because its economy is export-led. So we've got to be thinking.
So basically, what do we want?
That's the key
fundamental
question.
What do we want?
That's the fundamental question.
And we have not answered.
What do we want? How do we want to position the economy?
Yeah.
What kind of economy do we want to build and so on? All of that ought to be related to the kind of currency we have
And how we are managing it.
and how we are managing the currency.
Very true.
So this drop and fall in the rate of the cedi is not all. There are many other ingredients that we have to add on. You understand? I haven't again had the empirical evidence. I haven't looked at the statistics and so on. But I'm sure that within the last 6 months, exporters are really crying.
Oh, they met the president a few weeks ago. They met him because they had serious issues.
Yes.
Where the president even talked about how
we're trying
to
move
peg
a little
the
bit
dollar between 10 and 12.
12, yes,
Yes.
But you see,
Because they have
the
serious
real
concerns.
problem is the kind of politicians we have in this country. Many of our politicians stopped thinking a long time ago. Thinking is too difficult for them, so they stopped thinking. So our politicians, all of them, what they tell us is that, oh, when inflation comes down, it is good. When inflation goes up, it is bad. Very poor analysis. The politicians come and tell us that when the cedi's strength increases, oh, good news. When the cedi strength falls, bad news. Poor analysis, extremely poor analysis. Indeed, lazy, very lazy analysis. And these are the politicians we have. These are the politicians we have. That's the problem. No serious scientific analysis. Just pedestrian, vote-grabbing, propaganda analysis. That's what we are. Master, I lie? If I lie, tell me.
Collins, what do you think? Is a stronger cedi good or bad for us?
Oh,
it depends on the context.
But
yes,
I mean, the rhetoric in Ghana has been that we want to build an export-led economy.
True.
Everybody
that's what the 24-hour economy is all about.
Everybody talks about the fact that that's what even the whole idea of the 1D, 1F, trying to build more factories in order to produce what we eat and export some. So the whole idea is to be more export-driven.
The bigger context is restructure our economy.
Yes, more export-driven rather than buying and importing everything that we need. So that is where we want to be. But as Kwesi said, I think we have to be careful and draw a certain balance. Even government itself pegged the dollar to 15 cedis in their budget.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm wondering what my good friend Ato will be thinking about now, coming back to Parliament with the media review, because all his exports
and we also pegged the price of crude oil as
that's the point I'm making.
And that is around 60 something.
That's the point I'm making. So when your export price now, the cedi has gained so much strength, has dropped down to 10. What happens to your export revenue that you're expecting? So these are things that we have to have a proper discussion about. But generally, my brother, if you had $10,000 and you needed 150,000 Ghana cedi to buy, and now you need 100,000, every importer will be excited about it. Because the gain that the importer is getting within that period is very, very high. But here we are, the exporters have gone as far as the president to tell the president that yes, you may be excited about the figures you are seeing, but we also play a significant role in the economy, and we are bleeding on the basis of the strength of our currency. People are virtually saying that your products are becoming too expensive, because now people need more dollars to come and buy the same product they used to buy from you some 6 months ago. I think we need to sit and draw the balance. The last time we were here, Kwesi talked about, I was listening to even one economist, that sharp decline may seem exciting, but it's not too exciting for him. He was having a lecture that he would prefer a gradual drop and then a stability, so that if you are an exporter or an importer, you know that within the next 6 months, 1 year, the dollar will be 11.5, 12. So you calculate and plan with that kind of rate. But if you plan with 12 and it drops to 10, drops to 9, it may push away your entire cash flow projections. So these are things that we have to discuss. But
so I get it.
But also,
Kwesi's point about politicians not thinking.
But am I lying? Boss, am I lying? Just tell me.
I'm with you. I'm a politician. I'm here with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, but
He hasn't stopped.
Are you people really thinking? Please, excuse me, but look, because if you are thinking, you will not come and tell us that when the value of the cedi falls, you are in crisis or something. You will do a proper analysis. Yes, sir. But I was going to say something, Moro. You see, the drop in the value of the dollar in relation to the cedi for now would appear very good for the consumer. You understand
Yes.
why? Because we are so hugely dependent on imports.
True.
Look, Ghana is the third largest importer of tomato paste from Germany. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I saw the report.
We are actually importing tilapia. We are importing kontomire.
Willie, I saw the report of Willie.
Oh, my friend, Wele. Yemadia.
Yeah, my dear, yeah.
Yemadia is imported.
Yes. We import guinea fowls.
We are importing guinea fowls from Denmark.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The my dear figure I saw was
So,
in the millions of dollars.
Yeah.
so when the value of the cedi rises, for the ordinary average consumer, it would appear to be good news. But for somebody sitting down, planning the economy and placing Ghana in a certain position so that we can move into the future with confidence and so on, you have to do a lot more thinking than this pedestrian thing about.
So I'm going to say what you're saying is that we even risk killing the export sector.
Extent that it may
It would have an
find very
adverse effect
difficult
on us.
to rise. Yeah.
But how about those who also say that, yes, granted all the things that you've said, but if you look at a country like Ghana where our debt levels have ballooned to a certain extent, and about 40% of that component of that debt is as a result of the depreciation of the cedi. So then if the cedi appreciates, then you would pay far less than what you're supposed to pay when you're servicing your debt.
In cedi terms.
In cedi terms.
Yes, that's the point you have to make.
Yes,
break
in
down
cedi terms.
So the dollar component is
But
still
you
the
see, when
same.
you're talking about debt and how our debt is ballooning and so on,
Yes.
I'm sitting with the expert that you are asking me. Ask Collins.
Well, what makes him an expert?
You saw how far his government took us when it came to piling on
But
debt.
that doesn't make him an expert.
No, his government was the expert.
So that's
Your government was the expert. Your government has all the expertise.
so I'm talking about
We just
the
approved
net
it. We just
effect.
approved 360.
Well, it's going up. But I'm saying that it's cheaper today. It is cheaper today to service our debt as it would have been
Of course,
last
you
year,
need
right?
more less CDs to
Exactly.
convert to dollar to
Exactly.
pay.
That's the point
But
I'm
there's
making.
one good thing too is that because of the debt restructuring,
Yes.
a lot of the repayment has been shifted.
Well, we've just kicked the can down the road.
You're not getting my point. So now the pressure on the dollar now is not as it used to be.
No, I get that.
Fantastic. So some of the things Kwesi was talking about, are we building a lot of buffers? Because next year, if currently the dollar requirement is just 2 billion,
Never heard of sinking fund?
I'm coming. That's why I'm praying that they are building the buffers.
Okay.
Because now, if the dollar requirement now is 2 billion and Sami JFE has about 5 billion,
Yes.
there's excess.
Yes.
So the CD will always get some. What if in the next year you then have to start the repayment? In addition to the 2 billion request now, you need about another 3 billion.
Yes.
Then you have a challenge.
Yes, I get that.
So that is why I'm praying that I'm sure the managers of the economy understand this, and they will be building some buffers so that when the time comes for the repayment, you not be boxed up.
So essentially the point you're making is that even these buffers we're talking about, these reserves you're talking about, is incumbent. It's incumbent to the extent that it's only a matter of time. We're going to
The
deplete it in
sinking
order
fund,
to
the whole
service our
idea of the
debts.
sinking fund is to build some money for some repayment.
Yeah,
So that
that's
when
what
the
I'm
time
saying.
comes,
Yes.
you are not caught pants down.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the whole idea.
Okay, so we don't necessarily have to tax
Yes,
these
that's
things.
the whole
I get
idea.
it.
Yeah, that's
I
the
get
whole
it.
idea.
I get it. All right, so we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll look at still staying with the economy. We're told that the 1 cedi per litre policy, which was announced just recently, which was actually had to be postponed because of what was happening between Israel and Iran, is actually going to kickstart on the 16th of this month, according to the Ghana Revenue Authority. And so we'll look at that. But we'll juxtapose that as against what the PURC report has said about the new tariffs. And we'll see whether we can make sense of that conversation. So please stay with us. In TIO number 2025/004, dated 9th June 2025, Act 114 introduced an amendment to the following services. And it gives a breakdown. Now, it says there's motor spirits, gas oil, heavy fuel, and blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And talks about the old rate, gives us the old rate, and then gives us the new rates that's post-implementation. As you can see, as put up, you see that, so you'll see the shots on your screens. And it says all stakeholders are hereby directed to take note of this new effective date and ensure full compliance with the provisions of Act 1141. The Integrated Customs Management Systems, ICOMS, has been updated to reflect these changes, and all relevant calculations will be automatically applied to declarations from the effective date. Your cooperation is vital to the successful implementation of this critical revenue measure, which is essential for Ghana's energy sector stability and overall economic development. Thank you for your continued understanding and compliance. Signed, Anthony Kwesi Sapong, Acting Commissioner General, and it's been addressed to all ports and stations and distributed to so Commissioner Customs or Deputy Commissioner, blah, 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 it goes on and on and on and on and on. So it's coming on the Ejebu is happening 16th of July of this month. You have raised your serious objection to this increment, but it appears that it's going to happen. What else do you intend to do?
Well, I'm sad, and I raised objection because I felt that the government has not been truthful enough to us. And there are enough documentation to prove that.
Okay.
I mean, I just have the budget here. And I don't know if you have a copy of the budget. You can just go to paragraph 264. They were very clear in their mind that they do not intend to increase the levies. It was clear, and with your permission, I can read it. Consequently, without increasing the levy, we will also review the Energy Sector Levies Act to consolidate the Energy Sector Debt Recovery Levy, Energy Sector Recovery Levy, Delta Fund, Sanitation and Pollution into one levy, and use the proceeds to cater for the energy sector shortfalls and service the inherited debt service obligation. This is what they told us. But they came back to Parliament to increase it. We also told, if you recall, and I've read it here, the memorandum that accompanied the amendment, that this money is going to be used to buy fuel and also pay legacy debts, even in the budget. But it's very clear to everybody that this money is not going to pay any legacy debts. It's just going to be used to purchase fuel. Just recently, just 2-3 days ago, PURC has also come out to say that they are increasing electricity by 2.45%. And in fact, one of the factors they applied in getting to this level was fuel. So I'm very clear in my mind that they were not candid enough with the Ghanaian people. I was hoping that the suspension would have been upheld. In fact, we even called for a repeal of this one Ghana cedi. But it seems government is bent on doing it. And what else can we do? They've already passed the bill into an act. The president signed it. It came to Parliament under a certificate of urgency. The president has signed it. We were told that because of the Iran-Israel war, it's been suspended. Now I can see that the turbulence in that area has subsided a little bit, and that is why they are back.
It's a 6-day cessation.
Yes, I don't know whether it can resurface again. What happens if it resurfaces? Are they going to suspend it again? Everybody was also worried that there were no sunset clause in the amendment. What it means that it can be in perpetuity, So I'm not for it. I've made my point very clear because I believe very strongly the government was not clear and candid with the Ghanaian people, even from the onset, reading from the budget, from the memorandum that accompanied the levies up to this point. So I wish that this burden is not pushed onto the Ghanaian people. And one of the reasons, if you recall, was that the cedi have stabilized, yes, but now you are seeing a little bit of a jump in the exchange rates. Some quoting 12, some quoting 13. What is the effect of that? Because we're told that because of the gains we're making with the exchange rate, this will not have any major effect. Even without this in play, fuel prices went up just yesterday. Diesel by 5%, petrol by 2%. If this is implemented by the 16th, you can be rest assured that the next window, pricing window, will reflect this additional 1 cedi per liter, which gives you about 4.5 cedis per gallon. The burden on the Ghanaian people is getting a little bit tough, and it's my prayer that government will come through for the Ghanaian people. I just made mention of the VAT on non-life insurance, 15%, which kick-started yesterday. 2.45% electricity kick-started yesterday. 7% of plastic kick-started yesterday. And now, by the 16th, which is in 2 weeks' time, we are going to have another 1 cedi on petroleum products. That, for me, is going to be a significant burden. And I just hope that the government will listen to what we are saying. I think this particular levy is a little bit too much for the Ghanaian people.
What would you suggest to be the alternative? What would you have done if you were in the shoes of the
minister was in Parliament, and we did indicate to him that we are in full support of his reforms policy. He indicated to us that he intends to carry out a major reform within the energy sector, particularly ECG. Yesterday, we met a couple of, and I don't have their permission to, and we are seeing some...
Are they industry players?
Industry players.
Okay.
And we are seeing some improvement in the cash waterfall mechanism. That is significant. If the cash waterfall can continuously rake in a little bit more, probably we may not even need this additional funding. Number two, the system losses within ECG, which is also a key driver. I mean, before they even sell, they've already lost about 30%. That is something that government must as quickly as possible, look at. We were told that there's a committee that has been put together to look at the privatization, private participation. There's a difference. The private participation of the retail end of ECG's operations. I am for it. I think that we should bring some more efficiency within that aspect of ECG's operations. The last point is the renegotiations with the IPPs. I mean, I just, if you look at the documentation, clearly government was in a rush at that particular point in time. And they were on the back foot, and I must admit, because at the time, Doomsor was at its peak and they could not negotiate as expected. In the budget, this current budget, they've indicated that they want to continue the renegotiations. I am expecting that as quickly as possible, they are able to conclude that process, because that is also having a big toll on the finances of the energy sector. If you look at the PRC statement, now PRC will be charging as part of their tariff reserve, the reserve margins. PRC has factored it into our tariff calculation. Take or pay contracts, plants there not being used, we are paying for it, we are buying the fuel and all that. I think government should quickly as possible conclude that negotiation. That for me will rake in a lot more respite for the Ghanaian people. And these are the things that I believe the government should be focusing on, rather than continuously increasing the tariffs and levies on petroleum products. Yeah. I'm working with some colleague of mine on a paper. I just want to look at the entire levies on petroleum products, those that we feel are not as relevant as very relevant now, because the purpose for which it was introduced, you could see clearly that we are not seeing it being used very well. We are doing a paper to put some advocacy to see whether government can rethink and relook at those things. Some of them were even introduced by my government, but on hindsight, we realize that no, some tweaking can be done. And I think when we are done with the paper, I'll share with you and see how government is going to look at it. But clearly, I don't think an additional burden on the Ghanaian people is necessary at this time.
So how are we going to... So you have a situation where the energy sector debt, we're told, has ballooned to about 3 point. In fact, that's two figures that have been bandied around. I don't know which is which, but one we had 3.1 billion, some cases were 3.7 billion US dollars. This is a debt which is a Ghanaian debt. We ought to clear it. And every day when you wake up, the independent power producer, IPPs, are complaining about how government they are indebted, the government is not paying them what is due them, and so on and so forth. And they are threatening to shut down their plants, and the government has to rush and find some money somewhere and pay them, And then also, again, yes, indeed, you've talked about how much we're buying the power from them. And I've heard John Jinapo, for instance, say that they don't have any option. They themselves would have to review the prices at which they're selling these, the commodity to us. Otherwise, if you sell it dearly or expensively, would also struggle to pay. So you don't have any option. You'd have to come down for us to be able to reach some kind of a middle point. But those things are what's called medium to long term. But immediately, we have a problem to deal with. And the problem we have to deal with is the debt. We also have a problem to deal with how much we're even procuring crude oil for these plants to be able to operate. Okay? And until the PURC factored in some amount of the amounts that we're using to procure oil, which is the liquid oil, into liquid fuel, into the tariff build-up, we were actually depending on central government to buy that. And that's what's, the Eswaleku administration did, of which you were a member, were told, because I'm told it was the president said, look, if you add it, it would have far-reaching implication on how much you're going to pay for tariffs. And so take it out. But then what it means is that government would have to find money from somewhere to buy this particular commodity. I mean, these are clearly things that you cannot wait whilst all of these structural, adjustments are being made. So how do you deal with the current?
Is the solution the 1 Ghana cedi?
Well, I mean, they've done their modeling.
No, because the modeling clearly is telling us, and the minister himself has stated to us,
about 5.
The 1 cedi will rake in just 5.7 billion.
5.7 billion, yes.
Which is not even enough to buy the fuel.
Right.
So the debt you are talking about, the solution is not the 1 Ghana cedi. That's the point I'm making. The solution is not the 1 Ghana cedi. If you want to deal with the debt, it's not the 1 Ghana cedi that you're talking about.
Right.
Because clearly you are being told that the 1 Ghana cedi will rake in a certain amount, which is not even enough to take care of fuel, let alone talk about legacy debt. I was happy when the NDC manifesto indicated that they intend to reference the energy sector debt.
Okay.
Take it as a government debt off the books of the energy players, so they have a level playing field. And then government will find a way to deal with the debt separately. As it sits on the books of...
But we rake the debt every second.
No, but when you take off, when you put in the structures,
yes,
just like now the cash waterfall is raking in quite a substantial amount.
Yeah.
That's, I don't want to use the right word, the balances that are left on a daily basis. I'm sure with the increments in the cash waterfall, those ones can be taken care of. The daily ones can be taken care of. So that the legacy debt is ring-fenced, look at it, we have a discussion about it, and see how best to take care of it. As it stands now, they still sit on the books. My point is that if we deal with the debts now, it's not the 1 cedi.
No, what I call it, see, we are accruing this debt for 2 reasons. One is that we, even as consumers, are not paying the right price. When I say the right price, the context, i.e., how much ECG is buying the product from, the power producers, right? And selling it less than what we're supposed to.
So how do you deal with that? You deal with that by negotiating, going back to renegotiate.
So I'm saying that until that happens, we'll continue to pay less than what we're supposed to pay.
No,
and today there will always be issues of
it should be
under recovery.
It should be a major priority.
Okay.
To ensure that, because you've seen that is a major issue. Okay. You have to ensure that as quickly as possible
deal with that.
ASAP. That is something that you have to deal with. Otherwise, you have an issue as you are putting it.
Yeah.
So deal with that immediately. And then the reforms within ECG. Listen, there are customers who say ECG Brabeji Usika.
Yeah.
There's nobody's even bailing them. Those structural reforms, and I'm saying that we in the minority in full support of the reforms that the minister talked about. In fact, today I've seen a question by the minority leader to the energy minister for him to come and explain further the reforms that he talked about, which in principle we are for.
Okay. So I talked about one aspect of the under recovery. There's also, of course, when we talk about technical losses, we're talking about commercial.
Yes,
system losses.
System losses, yes.
Technical and commercial. You just cited a typical example of a commercial loss where people have used the commodity, they're looking for you to come and collect your money, and that one is a problem. And so the monies are staying with them. But that's one aspect of it. But you can't technical losses now, where you are producing 100% and you're only able to deliver 40 or 70%.
No, but technical losses normally is related to infrastructure.
Yes.
Yes. So
which will take, we're told, some billions of dollars to fix.
You see, if
because the machines are obsolete.
Yes, but you see, all those things should have been done on a gradual basis. Of course, there's been some major investments.
Yeah.
In transmission.
By Gridco.
Okay. There's been major, but it's not enough.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. So yes.
So we're still losing power.
You lose power if you have an old transformer. I mean, until I went to the ministry, I didn't even know that meters have expiry dates.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that after 5-10 years,
you can't use it.
It cannot calculate as properly as it should be.
Yes.
And so you could have a situation where you use about 3,000 worth of electricity, but you are billed 1,000.
Yes.
So those are technical losses.
And in fact, there are even cases where I know somebody but it was just recently that the ECG people came and took care of the person. The person's how do you call it? Meter expired.
Yes.
And she kept complaining to me that, look, I've been calling ECG to come and blah, 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 and it's not happening.
And if you realize there was a situation where they brought these new smart meters.
Yes.
Then your bill goes up.
Yes.
Your thinking will be that, why is that my bill has gone up? It's because you are now being charged the realistic price.
Because I'm told the new meters
you are now being charged the realistic one.
Actually take the new meters are very sensitive.
Very sensitive. So even if you switch on your plug and there's not throw your socket.
Yes.
And you've not even put in.
It will read.
It will continue to read. Yes.
Whereas the other ones you will read.
The other ones, if the meter is obsolete, you realize that it's unable to capture.
Yeah.
All those are losses.
We call it Usain Bolt.
Yes. All those are losses. Meters. Yes. But how do you take up those technical losses? It's investment.
Yeah.
To change the.
And my argument is that we're not there yet, so we'll continue to experience these system losses, technical losses. Who pays for that one?
The painful aspect is that as a consumer, I'm going to see myself, you are imposing fuel 2.something percent.
Yes, Esla levy.
But when I go home, the kind of service that I need from ECG,
you don't get.
Is a problem. So others are also complaining about the commensurate level of service as against the amount of money I'm paying.
Obviously, 16th we're paying Esla levy.
Well, my main problem is this. Nobody can predict that the confederation between Israel and Iran is gone forever.
True.
There are very serious signs that the aggression against Iran may resume. There are very serious signs. So if the aggression against Iran was the reason why we postponed the implementation, then perhaps we should tarry a bit, because it can happen again, and we are not out of the woods yet. The Straits of Hormuz can be closed again. Israel can launch another senseless attack on Iran. And indeed, today, Netanyahu is meeting Trump, and nobody knows what the outcome may be. The Iranians have promised a very strong retaliation if they should make the mistake of attacking them again, and so on. There's now discussions about a 6-week ceasefire in Gaza. And this morning I was listening to the Palestinian Authority foreign minister, and there are still substantial doubts about whether that can happen and so on. So the region is not stable yet. And I'm wondering what went into making this decision of starting to implement this levy now. That's one. Now, two, it's obvious that the minority in parliament is not very happy with this levy. What we know is that we are heavily indebted in the power sector, talking about 3.7 billion.
3.1.
Well,
that's what Atu said to us.
Yeah, but some have said 3.7. And in fact, since Atu said that, it's still been growing.
It's been growing, yeah.
3.7 billion. How does the minority propose that we retire that debt? Because it's not enough to come and tell us that you're opposed to the levy. Yes, fine, you're opposed to the levy. We all agree. We can see. What is your plan for retiring that debt? And they've not been able to give us any plan, any alternative. They've not been able to give us any suggestion as to how to retire that debt. So then, the minority position on this levy actually can be reduced to noise making. The only way it will cease to be noise making if they are able to tell us concretely what other alternatives, exist. And so, now, with regards to the pricing of power and so on, we've always known, always been told by PURC that there was under recovery.
Yes.
That we're paying far less than we should be paying. And indeed, if the NPP had been in power, I don't think that anything different would have happened.
Right.
You understand? So that's also a fact that we've been underpaying, and at some point we expected, to pay for it. Now, there's this problem with technical losses, and the technical losses used to be quite huge. I don't know what the rate is now, but they used to be quite huge. And technical losses, part of it is that the machinery we are using, the equipment we are using, have become obsolete. Even the power lines have not been replaced and serviced for a very long time.
Yeah.
So that contributes to the technical losses. How do we deal with that? I'm told that we need billions of dollars
to be
able to fix that. But then, at some point, we have to raise the money, to fix the problem of technical losses and so on. Then there's also the question of the energy mix generally. I mean, the energy mix we have now is expensive.
Right.
We could have cheaper energy mix by recourse to green energy and other things that we could do in order to change the energy mix. That also requires some investment, and I'm not so sure that we have the investment now, to change the energy, the power mix, the energy mix substantially for it to have an impact on us. But bottom line, I mean, if there's no electricity, life stops. In the modern world, electricity is crucial for the maintenance of life. Industrial life, life in the health sector, and so on.
Social life.
Everything. So it's important for us to find the resources in order to make sure that we can continue to generate power and to supply power, even when consumers cannot fully pay for the cost. We have a social obligation to continue to supply power. And that is why I would have expected that the minority or the opposition to the current government could come up with some concrete plans, concrete plans for resolving the critical problems in the sector. I haven't seen one yet. That's my problem. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's move on. We'll end with this. And it has to do with our embattled Chief Justice. And you remember she's still the Chief Justice, except that she's been suspended. So, and a few things have happened. So yesterday,
Well, if you're a suspended Chief Justice, you are not the Chief Justice.
Oh, and he's
the Chief Justice acting.
Acting.
Yes.
No, he's only acting. There's a Chief. He's only acting. Bafobon is only acting. There's a Chief Justice.
Because of the absence of a Chief Justice. That's why he's acting.
Yeah, but absence doesn't make it. She's still the Chief Justice, except that she's been suspended. Kwesi. She's still the Chief Justice.
I'm not going to get into this argument with you. But if she were still the Chief Justice, there'd be no acting Chief Justice.
Okay. Now, so the Daily Post today reports that the Attorney General files motion to strike out CJ Torkonoo's judicial review. And the story is on page 4. And it says the Attorney General has filed a motion at the Human Rights Division of the High Court seeking to strike out an application for judicial review brought by suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Torkonoo. In a sworn affidavit deposed by Reginald Ni Odoi, a state attorney at the Office of the Attorney General, the state argued that the Chief Justice's application suffers from grave misstatement of capacity. Okay. And the non-inclusion of mandatory and essential parties, rendering the entire motion legally defective. According to the affidavit, the issues raised in the Chief Justice application have either already been determined by the Supreme Court or are currently pending before it. Specifically, the affidavit cites multiple ongoing or concluded cases, including Justice Gertrude Torkonoo versus Attorney General and 5 others, suit number so and so, Theodore Kofi Atta Quartey versus Attorney General, suit number J81092055, as evidence that the Human Rights Court lacks jurisdiction in the matter. The Attorney General contends that allowing the Human Rights Court to proceed with the review application would amount to overstepping judicial boundaries and contravening established Supreme Court authority. Now, the originating motion is affected by grave misstatement of capacity and non-inclusion of essential parties. These effects go to the very root of jurisdiction. The affidavit reads, it further states that the relief sought in the application for judicial review are based on matters either previously decided by the Supreme Court or currently pending before it. The state is therefore asking the court to strike out the application in its entirety. The affidavit includes references to several exhibits marked AG 1 to AG 5 comprising rulings and court documents from the cited cases. The Human Rights Court is expected to set a date for hearing the Attorney General's motion in the coming days. So that's what it is. But closely related to this is the story in today's Daily Statesman. It says we can't politicize justice delivery, and the story is on page 2. And it says that the president of the Ghana Bar Association, Efua Gate, has cautioned against the politicization of the country's judicial processes, particularly in relation to the ongoing proceedings concerning the potential removal of the Chief Justice, her late Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Torkonoo. Delivering an address at the annual commemoration of the Martyrs' Day, the GBA president reminded the nation that the defense of judicial independence was not a matter of personal loyalty, but a principled stance rooted in the fundamental ideas of democracy and the rule of law. The Ghana Bar Association, as well as other legal associations, both local and international, such as the Commonwealth Lawyers Association, Magistrates and Judges Association, and Commonwealth Legal Education Association, as a matter of principle, have made their voices heard on the ongoing process for the removal of the Chief Justice of Ghana, and late Chief Justice Gertrude Torkonoo. Now, she emphasized the need for procedural integrity and fairness, expressing the hope that any Superior Court judge who may be subject to such a process would be fully informed of all its implications and afforded the dignity and safeguards that the justice system demands. It is hoped that any Superior Court judge will be well apprised of the entire process before ever being subjected to same in the spirit of fairness. The Bar president further clarified the association's concern over the matter was not driven by personalities, but rather by a sacred responsibility to uphold the independence and credibility of Ghana's judiciary. She's appealing for peace, reconciliation, and justice in the country. She also called on Ghanaians to honor the legacy of the murdered judges by upholding the rule of law and resisting political polarization of justice delivery. And it says, we remember these martyrs of the rule of law and will continue to celebrate them, lest we forget what we lived and died for. And that's according to what Efua Gate has said. Collins, your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I'm not a lawyer. So most of the things you read are...
They are legal issues.
Legal issues. Who is God? Is the judiciary.
Right.
When it comes to parliament, it's NDC, NPP, independent. The executive, obviously political. One of the only institutions that we can all run to when there's a dispute or when there's a problem is the judiciary. And my worry is that if we are not careful and we politicize that institution also, then become a big challenge for all of us. I'm just hoping that this whole process going, I listened to the Chief Justice, and just listening to her alone, sent some shivers down my spine. It's quite difficult that she's going through what she's going through, the ordeal as narrated by herself in her presser. The Attorney General, by rights, has also gone to court to have it set aside in the petitions is sent. Let's see how it goes in court. But I'm saying that let's be careful how we review our judiciary in order not to erode the confidence that we have in the judiciary. The optics for me looks a little bit untidy, you know, trying to get the Chief Justice out and all that. I'm just hoping that cool heads will prevail, you know, at the end of the day, that the sanctity of that institution is kept for the benefit of all of us.
Do you find the presser that she held last week necessary when you heard her say all the things that she said?
Well, I'm not too sure if she breached any constitutional provision by the press conference. For some of the things she talked about, as I said, were quite shocking. You know, I've also not heard any other person counter most of the things she said, apart from
did
the
you listen
government
to this? Okay.
spokesperson who just dealt with an aspects that related to government, and he felt that government did not breach any constitution and that all the other matters the committee will deal with. Yes. As to the appropriateness of the press conference, I don't think I can judge on my own. I don't know what, she's a lawyer, Chief Justice. I think she's well endowed with a lot of legal team around her to make an informed decision as to why she did what she did, you know. Or if this was the only avenue available to her, probably she tried other avenues. She was not getting the needed space to vent. So she thought that she could come and make this presser. So if you ask me whether it was necessary, I can't judge whether it was necessary or not. I'm sure she's well pleased to decide on that. Yeah.
I don't know whether you have read any book by Chimamanda Adichie. She's a Nigerian novelist. So she has a book called The Danger of a Single Story, and she was talking about how Africa is viewed by the foreign world. You know, so and I raised this because it's leading up to a question I want to ask you, which is that she's just told us her side of the story. Unfortunately, we've not heard from the committee, and we will not hear from the committee because they are challenged by Article 4668, which says let's keep the whole thing confidential. Let's treat the whole thing confidentially. So we had a side. We've not heard from the committee. So what can we make from what she said, especially when Wakanede? What do we make from what she said to us? I mean, do you think we should place some premium on what she said because she's Chief Justice, or you think that we should tarry on and listen to the other side?
I don't think we can just discount what she said. I don't think she's Chief Justice. She's not just any ordinary Ghanaian, you know, and with no disrespect to anybody. She's a Chief Justice. If you look at the governance architecture, she heads a whole arm of government, you know. So I don't think we should just discount what she said. As I said, I've only listened to the government spokesperson's response to an aspect of a presser which related to government. And essentially, all he was saying is that His Excellency Mr. Mahama has not breached any aspect of the Constitution. Okay. All he needed to do was to follow the Constitution, set up a committee, and all that. And Mr. Mahama has done so, His Excellency. And he thinks the committee should address the other aspects. And I'm sure one of the lawyers of the petitioners, Mr. Titus Sorry, also indicated that he's not prepared to engage her in the media, and that all engagement will be done at the committee level. Let's see what happens.
Meet me there.
Meet me there. But my point I'm making is that the optics, my point is that let's try as much as possible to protect the sanctity of that institution called the judiciary, because that's the only institution we all run to when there's an issue. That's the only institution.
Do you think that is not happening? Because you've said this is about the third time you're saying it. I read some more meetings into it. You think it's not happening? You think the judiciary is not being protected?
You know, I'm talking about the optics.
Okay.
You know, I don't know what's the...
From where you sit, how does the optics look like? How does it look to you? What do you think?
It's I mean, and it's not just that. I mean, the commentary house. It's like government wants to push it out. That's a commentary that you hear from outside. That everything is being done possible to take care of. You know, I heard one government communicate on radio. He said the NPP's last support system was Torkonoo, and that once Torkonoo is taken off, the NPP is off. I mean, comments like that is what I fear, because I don't want the situation. NDC will not be in power forever, no matter what happens. A day will come, another government will come. I don't want a situation where people will be referencing situations like this and also doing things and sometimes doing over, you know, and that's my worry. Let's protect the sanctity of that institution. It's just a platform. The committee is there. I'm sure at the appropriate times you have a day, and unfortunately the president is bound by the decision of the committee. And let's see how the committee's response will be.
All right. Kwesi, so two things she's done. She's held a news conference and she's gone to court, human rights court. She said her rights are being violated. The Attorney General has responded to the issues he's raised in her affidavits, and I read some of it in that story. This is the first time you're going to be commenting on this matter. Let me first of all pick your thoughts on what you made of what you make of the presser that she held, and then a decision to go to court to ventilate her rights.
Well, I think I've commented enough.
Not on this platform.
On these matters.
Yes.
You know, and I'd like to just sum it all up.
Okay.
When a Chief Justice, in this case, suspended Chief Justice, who has presided over the bench, publicly alleges that judicial processes and quasi-judicial processes can be influenced politically. What can I say? She was Chief Justice. She presided over the judiciary. And she's saying that the institution that she presided over can be politically manipulated. How did she come to that conclusion? From experience? How did she come to that conclusion? And indeed, if that institution can be politically manipulated, is that not the strongest case for resetting? So she makes her own case, and I'm not going to spend time, you know, discussing what she has done or is doing or is likely to do. The Constitution prescribes various parameters for dealing with cases which arise out of the administration of justice and so on. And we should all follow the process to the end.
But why take her to Edu Lodge? It reminds her of 1982. It's psychological torture.
You see...
Not you, I'm asking.
No.
You. Yes.
You are asking a question which elicits responses which may not be in her best interest. You see, if you have a Chief Justice who is afraid of tall walls, you have a problem. That the walls are too tall. It's a huge problem for the administration of justice. You understand? If you have a Chief Justice who is unable to shake off prejudice that stems from family history, you have a huge problem. You understand? If you have a Chief Justice whose appreciation of the law is problematic, you have a big problem on your head. I think that her press conference did her a lot of damage.
Really?
Yes. But perhaps it's not her fault. She's a judge, perhaps a learned lawyer. She doesn't know how the media operates and the impact that such media recklessness can cause. So maybe it's not her fault.
Okay, so she's been a lawyer for 30 years and a judge
Yes,
for
so
20
she can deal
years.
with the law.
Yes.
But when it comes to organizing press conferences and the impact of press conferences, she's not an expert. And that's why she did, perhaps she did what she did. Because look, for a Chief Justice to suggest that the process she wants to defend, the institution she wants to defend, can be politically manipulated, I mean, that's huge. For a Chief Justice to address the media and make statements which suggest that she's not aware that 3 decisions had already been made by the Supreme Court on a matter that she wants the Supreme Court to adjudicate, it's a huge problem. For a Chief Justice to hold a press conference and announce that she can't shake off prejudice, springing out of family history, that's a huge problem. But she didn't do herself any good at all. I don't think that she did herself any good at all by holding that press conference.
Okay.
You know, if I were her, perhaps would not have done the things that she has done, and perhaps she intends to do. I'm being very, very charitable. Is that not how they say it? Boss, is that how
You mean very,
say it?
very measured?
Yes, today.
Yes.
For good reason. You know. I mean, sometimes I look at her, I watch her on television, I read what she says and so on. And I can't help sympathizing with her. I can't help having a certain sense of pity and so on. But she should cut her losses. If I were her, you know, she should cut her losses. I mean, she's matured enough to know what is good for her and what is not good for her. I'm not the one to advise her. You know, I think she's really, she's really, really, really. It's okay.
Okay. So, Collins, I mean, you know, opinions are divided sharply as to whether the Chief Justice, based on everything that's happening, to resign or to fight on to the end of the process.
Master, our opinions don't matter. And
she says,
I shouldn't
no, but I'm driving at something. And she says,
I hope you're driving at something which does not require
those who are asking her to
But she has already made her point. That's
yes,
good
so those who want her to resign, she said she won't resign.
Yeah.
Because she resigns, she will lose entitlements.
She should fight, no problem. Why? Who prevents her from fighting?
Okay.
It is not the fight that she puts up which is important. Ultimately, what is important is what that Article 146 committee decides and the president's decision. These are the two most important.
The president is bound by the decision of the committee.
Yes. So, we are waiting.
Anyway.
We are waiting. I don't think the advisors are doing her much good.
Okay. We have some 8 minutes. Let's see if we can do this quickly. It's about Galamsey. Quite a number of things are happening now.
We haven't read one message from our viewers.
No, I have. In fact, Kojo Chumbuafu sent me a message. In fact, as you know. Yes, Kojo Chumbuafu says that, but that's a question to you. Please, can you ask my nephew Collins why he sat silent when Ken Oforiatta was collateralizing ESLA till 2035? Is he aware that if he had ESLA, this levy won't have been necessary? That's a question from NSS Mora. Now I understand why the relatives of Sergeant Ajeti, Corporal Atipu, and Private Udati Lamte to say that they are traumatized when they pass through the Christianborg crossing. I get the sarcasm. The Christianborg Castle, the story about that. So anytime their relatives pass by the Christianborg Castle, it reminds them of what happened to, the sergeant, the good old sergeant. Anyway, so Tafai Namreha says that why do they keep comparing the constitutional process that is being used to see whether she's guilty of the allegations that are being made against her with the method of those high court judges? And then this one here from Musa Abatwa in Kumasi says that the GMA should stop pretending they are long GBA. That's for not GMA. They've long acted as a wing of the NPP, and there's no need to deny it. The recent conduct clearly shows where their loyalties lie, and it's certainly not with the ordinary Ghanaian. If they chose to remain silent yesterday on the critical nation's issues, they should maintain that silence today. Jumping on defending the suspended Chief Justice now only exposes their hypocrisy and dishonesty. Now, Alhaji Hamza from Pig Farm says that greetings to you from the good people of the Holy Land of Mecca. I think Mr. Samiji Efi and his team must be commended for the good work they're doing for Mother Ghana and for the matter, the nice party. I am so proud of him as a young man with such good ideas. I salute him and I will urge him to keep the good works. But my brother, I'm equally worried about what is happening in our water bodies and forest reserves. Something must be done, and done quickly, to save our forests and water bodies. Can you imagine out of 40 excavators seized and kept under the care of the police, 33 is gone missing, according to Madam Hanabisu. This totally unacceptable. The police must be held responsible. Madam Hanabisu, agreed to wherever you are this morning. She's actually busy fighting the Galamseyers. Now, there's a question for you.
In what capacity?
Oh, she's a Ghanaian.
Oh, okay.
So let me. So the Simons, the Dean of Parliamentary Press Corps, once again. The Dean of Parliamentary Press Corps, I should ask you a question, Collins. So he sends me a picture of a story in his paper today, which says MPP sank Tor, Ghana Gas Company, new managers vow to revamp institution. He says I should ask you that Honorable Adomako is a deputy ranking member. Find out from him if he was happy listening to the new managers of Tor and Ghana Gas painting that sad state of the institution. And that's he wants me to ask you. Yes, sir.
There's a very significant development in Ghana's politics that I think everybody has overlooked.
What is it, sir?
I just came by it. Listen, it's in the Daily Post of today.
Okay.
Actually, on page 5.
Uh-huh.
And the headline is Matters Day.
Yes.
NDC legal director slams attempts to link PNDC to NDC.
Oh.
And this is a major development, significant development. Let me read it. The Director of Legal Affairs for the Governing National Democratic Congress, NDC, Godwin Edwardzi Tamaklo, has strongly criticized ongoing attempts to conflate the Provisional National Defense Council with the NDC, describing such efforts as intellectually dishonest and politically motivated. In a Facebook post on Monday, June 30th, 2025, Mr. Tamaklo questioned how listen to the language, any decent-minded person could continue to equate the two distinct political entities when they are clearly not the same. His remarks come in response to recent comments made during Matters Day commemoration, where some speakers sought to associate the NDC with the PNDC era, particularly in reference to the 1982 murders of 3 High Court judges and a retired army officer. This constant politicization of a tragic national event is unfortunate. It is done deliberately by individuals who want to score cheap political points using the memory of the murdered judges, Mr. Tamaklo stated. I mean, don't you think that is a seismic development in our politics?
Was that what he said exactly, or he's been misquoted?
I don't agree with him.
Well, whether you agree with him or not, this is the head of the legal directorate of the NDC saying that the NDC is not the PNDC.
So now he's disassociating himself from the PNDC.
Yes, the PNDC is different from the NDC. You understand? I mean,
was it quoted properly?
Yeah, it was quoted properly.
How would I know? I'm reading it from the newspaper.
Okay.
And mind you, this is the Daily Post. This is not the Daily Statesman.
Yeah, or Daily Guide.
I'm going to say,
you know,
during the June 4th celebration, the NDC celebrated June 4th. I want my brother to play the voice of Fifi Kwete. Fifi Kwete, just this year, June 4th.
And why would you take Fifi Kwete's words?
He's the general secretary of the party. He's the general secretary of the party.
He is the head of the legal directorate of the party.
He went as far as saying that anybody who wants to disassociate themselves from even the June 4th cannot claim to be a true NDC person. Fifi Kwete, it's on record.
Yes.
So what is he talking about? What is he talking about?
Master, why do you ask me this question?
One is called PNDC.
My brother.
The other one is
my
called
brother.
NDC.
NDC is my very good friend.
But there are some who say that they actually removed the P
and retain the NDC.
And retain the NDC.
Yes. I said to solve this problem, it's a very simple problem.
Yes.
Play the tape of the general secretary of the NDC, who is the chief scribe of the party.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
I heard it.
Master, go to the Facebook page of Energy Tamaklo. Why would you go to the...
I'm talking about the general secretary of the party.
This is the head of the legal director.
And the head of legal director reports to the general secretary. He reports to the general secretary.
Legal directory.
But his point is
legal directory.
No, his point is that obviously his point is that what Fifi Kwete said is at odds with what if indeed what
it is true. It is true.
Yes.
What Fifi Kwete says is at odds with what
yes.
is saying.
Yes.
But you see, the identity is a legal question.
Yes.
The identity is a legal question.
Yes. Not a political one. Politically,
well,
they say.
There is some political elements that, if you drill down, you come to the legal question.
As far as AFRC.
Edoji cannot take the positive of PNDC and reject the negatives.
No, but he's talking law. He's not talking
what law? What law is he talking about? It's my bad. When I finish, I'll call him. What law?
And a different legal entity.
Are you saying that you know the NDC better than Edoji? Are you saying that?
I can tell Edoji that Fifi Kwete knows the NDC more than him.
How?
He's the general secretary. The history tells us the history of Fifi Kwete. He was a member of parliament. He was a communication director. He's not the general secretary of the party.
Your general secretary has been making statements that your party people want to beat him up.
This has nothing to do with my. This has nothing to do with my general secretary. This has to do with Edoji and his boss. Edoji and his boss, and I'm saying that.
I think you are not being fair to Edoji.
Oh, I'll call him. But what he's just saying is completely at variance with what his boss said, and I believe his boss.
But whatever it is, for somebody as prominent as Edoji Tamakwe, director of the legal department of the NDC, to make such a statement, don't you think it's a very significant statement?
Well, if he's disagreeing with his general secretary, fine. They will have an internal debate. But as for us, outside, we know the PNDC and the NDC are one.
This is what he's complaining about.
The founder of PNDC and all is one person. The leader of PNDC, who was he?
No.
Why is this statement so important to you? You're not told us.
Listen.
Yes, sir.
Masha, I think that you are deliberately, and I mean deliberately twisting facts.
I'm not twisting any fact, I'm busy.
Because you know that the declaration of Mr. Rawlings as founder of NDC happened after the fact.
That's true.
Indeed, it was after 2000 that he was declared founder.
Yes.
And all of us who know the history of the party, as you can glean from Obeda Samuel's book and statements which have been made by people who formed the Reform Party and so on, it is obvious that he was not a founder of the NDC.
Right.
No, it's obvious that the only party that he can claim to have founded was the Eagle Party.
Right.
We know that as a fact,
what's that
don't
the,
you?
the constitution? So what? No, what does the constitution of the NDC say?
No, it says he's a founder.
When? No, after the party has been formed. After the party has won 2 elections.
The constitution of the NDC says that.
He's a founder of the party.
Simple.
All right.
So you think Edoji Tamakwe doesn't know the constitution of the party?
Edoji Tamakwe is wrong in his interpretation.
Okay. All right.
Hey, today you are shooting.
Lawyer. I'm not a lawyer.
What?
So media, Debbie America, MPP for we in your chance, no better TV so. And Toronto Dawson, bragging the Dawson. Martinum for 8 good years. You want the papa bia muye. All of a sudden, I'm for a bum sisiano. More dreams say Ghana for Bessia Twaba. No more be you, no more demaba. More dreams say Ghana for a Bessia Twaba. No more yim, no more Sunday maba. Be a mibisa. MPP for more home too much. You are John Mahama. And how was he? In fact, how was he a shocking microphone? Edding, say 2028 elections. Say Papa ni samba biwa. Say koni si ya Edding say 2028 elections. Papa na sound running for 30 ma. Ghana for 2 man. But then no. MPP for Kruya no mbema case na ye case. Ombeka oye dufudu pe oye say. It's a no clear. I know very well pa. Say Papa John Mahama on try for even 10 crowd on try embana jum crowd. and the best answer NDC for being so a be on moye den a be on moya because bedroom say papa no I den oversee the territory bedroom say papa no will go beyond the boundaries and the best answer and you good crowd nti MPP for the to see party in Gina ye and paying for more party in some kasa because some pay for no kasa munti what is a year rajon a year kufo and see your buy be kasa se party no and kabon here and a bayan party no more ayeden a deep party any more a deep party in famo any Ghana for your mom brabontin no more pa Ghana for a chow you were kufado and an ordino. What is a papa na babo and chamber patcho? You see, a kufado tiffy now. You see, who said John Mahama Ibu Mamoni so few so catch prosperity will judge him or will judge Ghanaians. And then prosperity no, I judge or no. And then and you might call ye come Bibia than our council. What in a matronas any Bibia than our council. Although say 16th of July we are almost the levy beba. But if you any so mo de ba still na ebe stabilize ni nyina so ye ka be wie people for car mo bo e de to energy sector ho no e ja na ho koye sanye John Mahama en ne bre sanye John Mahama en ne nya bre pa so be save this country and ka dun so kese pa na esensi kurom ha na me ka cho en ka dun so ai mu adin dun so aye tawe and buy because uncle for free so mate as a 5 barrels of fuel. I ain't take it even a day crowd. It's your Mudi Muhammad is so this year now. No any kaka no ne. And do you know the reason why a tiny book of Nigerian president Obama Muhammad inauguration? No. Do you know the reasons why? Because of petrol. Almost all the West African leaders now more than or more even more you coup Brahim Traore nanum etimi buy. It tells you something. Obi a oye coup leader or ye military leader and the democracy there fan ho ben but who say nipa e wo John Mahama mu who say sebi eburusi binyando or den ho pata John Mahama obetimi ebu ne man enti ene John Mahama so osune bibi fi military leader Ibrahim Traore ho enti wo say ene amamu ekototin bibi agina na akwaso bibi an nam ye enti aka bibi kyerɛ mu na sɛ montia before mobɛtumi position akyɛ mompra na mobɛpa Ghana for akyɛw because madi ɔman ne bɔne sika modie ɛnɛma mo asɛe no nkɔfoɔ agyapadeɛ especially King of Frata agradaa sɛ mi baayɛ nkɔfoɔ bebree ɛkɔɔle hɔ no Ghana the laws to work on King of Frata cases sɛ yɛhu bebree nsua nnam o yɛnim sɛ King of Frata yɛba Ghana anaasɛ ɔnyɛ den ɔma Ghana ɔka ho si an ɔyare nkɔfo akinofura ata de ɔmo ato trauma mu ɔde ɔmo abu esene mu nkɔfo ɔmo adwuma firi ɔmo nsa nkɔfo ɔmo awuo ɔmo yare ɔmo aware asɛe ɔmo nneɛma asɛe ɛnyɛ nkɔfo ketewa akinofura ata yɛpɛ justice a somebody can tell us akwa na san ho yare ne yide betumi aba abɔnten bɛ mfa nkyɛn sɛ ɔyɛ surgery. Is it not funny? Is it not funny? Is it not funny? Inti yeka baby obi a wadi Guinness sika bia no obeden obefiaba enti de bia meka kire NDC for the oral team no monyine mu na monye adwuma NDC oral no monyine mu na put things in place na se mokoye se mada so mokoye se moka de keka Ghana for so ebubefu mo because ade ba ko a e ma Ghana for Enya gidi wam tisi fumu ene se operation recover all loot sika nkofo ye di na de begigi aba. It is a montimi angigi na mo ansene njeli omunso agana fo ne mo wasem NDC for. Ene LGBTQ plus bill NPP NDC for montimi amfa mo supreme number in parliament na an sign bill we ya mo so gana fo ne mo wasem. Se galamsey fight NDC for montimi amfa mo supreme leadership anya de unstoppable galamsey Ghana for ene mo wasem. Nano hanabisi umame hanabisi nse mo beka yebisa sa 33 excavators no ay tweeda police station wa de chinya no ni ho no hefo ena omuye in charge of it. The police ojano omunsem must be held accountable. And I think say police for no go take that no go by the law. Almost be chire baby excavators but ebisi na nyanti ho asem. It is almost mo kwa say the NPP for no mo ti abem e kan asem a no mo go mo ani abuso e kan we no mo ayi we na 2028 don't venture and e kan crash them more minor peripere ye enye the emblem na said the radjon na nya bro person develop my we know every member and as every appointee biam and make sure say he is on board working for papa no. Every appointee biano should make sure say papa no dear ope dientia appointee no man and sense form. It will hear Samijan fee in fact or ye juma. Samijan fee ye juma. The young man Samijan fee a ye juma kwaraketwa. I think so in the 30s. Look at how this man is working tirelessly. And can you say bina kupo wanka grada ni musu ebe fori abranti emanka yewa John Mahama Ghana for di na no si ne ho emumu eye den sake ne kwatena fie ema aban ne ye basa. Because of say nakupon MP ne ma ne ngwase MP ne ma se ni babiye ebe ne ba ebe course yi muntiro oyi yewa Samijan fie efiri mo ene atamfo nhihye the table has turned. And then baby agrada o. The lawyers beya agrada 5 years do bedem. Agrada almost say all day for the thief, 1 day for the master. Agrada din se money ukruma nti emphasize case nto nti me catch them one day for. Mo make sure say every single promise you made to Ghanaians when you were campaigning in 2024. In fact, muntimi anya kwala monye bi makana for mo sampa mo buy no you have I mean you have the intention to build this country and you have the mindset to make sure somebody mo my region nice. Na nkoye say the NDC for mo TNs MPP for mo TNs no me wie no mo di atem adepatwa sebi and no mo di etwayo mo di twayo ya fiafi mu no mo di taxes ibi bu ye kon mo NDC for mo nyebi so mo yebi a 2028 ye no mo nyina wo kroma na mo bi hu de besi fa comment to comment section like it mo di ne share afufuro nyebi hwe oba de ne adoma besi ehia media no mega yankopon koso ha enhita obibia makro bibia bye bye.